It was a rainy Tuesday evening when my son Marcus walked through our front door looking like he had lost everything. His face was pale, his designer suit drenched, and his eyes, those same bright eyes I had watched grow from a mischievous boy into a responsible man, were filled with a pain I never wanted to see again. "Mom, he fired me," Marcus whispered, collapsing onto the couch. "Who fired you?" I asked, my heart already pounding. "My father-in-law, Richard Hargrove. He called me into his office this morning and told me I was done, effective immediately. No severance, no explanation. Just security escorting me out like a criminal." Richard Hargrove, the man who had once called Marcus son. The billionaire owner of Hargrove Dynamics, a massive logistics and manufacturing empire that employed over 3,000 people. Marcus had married Richard's only daughter, Sophia, 5 years ago. He had poured his heart, soul, and every waking hour into the company, modernizing systems, closing risky deals, and turning around failing divisions. Everyone respected him. Everyone except, apparently, his own father-in-law. Later that night Sophia came home crying. "Dad said you weren't pulling your weight," he said. The board agreed, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. Something was very wrong. I stayed up all night, replaying every family dinner, every holiday, every moment Richard had smiled while quietly undermining my son. The pieces started falling into place. This wasn't about performance. This was personal. The next morning I drove to the company headquarters myself. I wasn't going to cause a scene, not yet. I simply wanted answers. What I discovered in the parking lot shattered me. Sophia's car was there, parked right next to her father's. And inside the executive lounge, through the glass, I saw them laughing with 2 other board members, the same men who had supposedly voted to fire Marcus. I confronted Sophia that evening. After hours of tears, the truth finally spilled out. "Dad never liked Marcus," she admitted. "He always wanted me to marry someone from our circle. When Marcus started getting too much credit for the company's success, Dad got jealous. He wanted to bring in his nephew instead. Give him the VP position and eventually hand over the company. Firing Marcus was the first step." My blood boiled. My son had been treated like disposable trash by the very family he had sacrificed for. They had humiliated him publicly, damaged his reputation in the industry, and left him questioning his worth. But they made one fatal mistake: they forgot who I really was. I had never told Marcus the full story of my past. Before I became the quiet, supportive mother who baked cookies and attended every soccer game, I was Elena Ramirez, the woman who built one of the largest private investment funds in the country. I had stepped back after my husband's death to raise Marcus, but I never fully let go of my influence. I still sat on the board of several major conglomerates. I still held silent majority stakes in companies that supplied Hargrove Dynamics with critical parts. And, most importantly, I still had the private number of Victor Lang, the reclusive billionaire, who quietly owned 40% of Hargrove Dynamics through offshore entities. Victor owed me everything. I had saved his company during the 2008 crash when no one else would. That night, after putting Marcus to bed like he was still my little boy, I made the call. "Victor," I said calmly when he picked up. "It's Elena. I need you to fire every single one of them." There was a pause. Then Victor laughed softly. "Richard and his inner circle? All of them. The board, the executives who voted against my son, and make sure Richard knows exactly who made the call." Victor didn't hesitate. "Consider it done by morning." The news exploded across the business world before breakfast. Hargrove Dynamics stock plunged 28% in pre-market trading. Emergency board meetings were called. By 10 a.m., Richard Hargrove was removed as CEO. The entire executive team that had voted to fire Marcus was terminated, effective immediately. Security escorted them out the same way they had escorted my son. Richard called me screaming. "How dare you? This is my company," I answered coldly. "It stopped being your company the moment you betrayed my son." Sophia showed up at our house in tears, begging for forgiveness. She admitted she had known about her father's plan but had been too scared to stand up for her husband. Marcus, being the bigger man, eventually forgave her, but only after she cut ties with her father's toxic influence. The media loved the story. Headlines screamed, "Family empire crumbles after son-in-law firing backfires spectacularly." Analysts called it one of the most dramatic corporate takeovers in years. 3 months later, Marcus was back, not as an employee, but as the new chief operating officer of a restructured Hargrove Dynamics. Victor and I had installed honest leadership and given my son the power to run things his way. The company was already bouncing back stronger than ever. At our family dinner that night, Marcus raised his glass. "Mom, I still can't believe you did that for me." I smiled, tears in my eyes. "Sweetheart, a mother's love is the most powerful force in the world, never forget that." Sophia squeezed his hand. Their marriage was healing, built on truth this time. Richard? He was left with a fraction of his fortune and a very public lesson in humility. The moral of this story? Never underestimate a parent's fierce love. When someone hurts your child, the universe has a way of balancing the scales, sometimes with just one phone call. If this story touched you, drop a comment with your own family betrayal stories. I read every single one. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because next week I'm sharing an even wilder tale of hidden fortunes and long-lost family. 6 months after the dramatic takeover, everything looked perfect on the surface. Marcus was thriving as CEO. The company stock had recovered and even climbed higher than before. Sophia had fully distanced herself from her father, and was expecting their first child. A beautiful new chapter. But late one night, my phone rang with an unknown number. "Elena," a cold voice said. "You think destroying Richard was enough? You have no idea what you've started." It was Victor Lang's former business partner, Damien Cross. A man I had crossed paths with decades ago during the financial crisis. He had lost billions because of decisions I helped Victor make. Now he wanted revenge. Damien had secretly bought up shares and was plotting a hostile takeover. He had been funding Richard Hargrove behind the scenes, feeding him money and dirty lawyers to fight the changes. Suddenly, lawsuits started pouring in. Key suppliers pulled out. Anonymous articles appeared online painting Marcus as an inexperienced nepotism baby who destroyed a family legacy. I realized the one phone call had only won the first battle. The real war had just begun. Marcus came home exhausted every night. "Mom, they're coming after us from every direction. Some employees are loyal to Richard and are sabotaging projects from inside." I decided it was time to step out of the shadows. I flew to New York and held secret meetings with old allies. We replaced suspicious executives, upgraded cybersecurity, and launched an internal investigation. During this time, Sophia gave birth to our grandson, little Alexander. Holding him in my arms gave me new strength. I promised him silently that no one would ever take away his family's future, the way they tried to take Marcus's. But the pressure was mounting. One major client threatened to pull a $200 million contract. Marcus was working 18-hour days trying to save it. I could see the fear in his eyes. The same fear from the day he was fired. I refused to let history repeat itself. One of our investigators found something explosive. Hid offshore accounts, forged documents. And worst of all, proof that Richard had been stealing from the company for years, funneling millions into secret accounts while blaming Marcus for losses. Even more shocking, Sophia's mother, Richard's ex-wife, had known and helped cover it up before their divorce. I confronted Richard in a private meeting, evidence in hand. The once powerful man looked broken. "I did what I had to do," he muttered. "The company was supposed to stay in the family. You destroyed your own family the day you chose greed over blood," I replied. "We gave him one chance, return the stolen money quietly, or face public criminal charges. He chose to return it. But Damien Cross was still out there, angrier than ever." Damien made his move during the annual shareholder meeting. He tried to force a vote to remove Marcus and install his own puppet. The room was tense. Cameras were rolling. I stood up from the back row, microphone in hand. "Mr. Cross," I said clearly, "you seem to have forgotten something important. I still hold the largest voting block through Victor's trusts. And every person in this room now knows exactly who has been trying to destroy this company from the outside." I played the recordings. Showed the bank transfers. Revealed how Damien had been working with Richard to sabotage Marcus. Gasps filled the hall. Security escorted Damien out. The shareholders voted overwhelmingly in our favor. Marcus was officially named CEO that same day. Richard was banned from the premises forever. In that moment, watching my son stand tall at the podium, I felt a lifetime of sacrifices had been worth it. 2 years later, Hargrove Dynamics was stronger than ever. Now a publicly admired company known for ethical leadership and innovation. Marcus and Sophia were happier than I had ever seen them. Little Alexander was walking around the office, charming everyone. I finally stepped back completely, but not before writing a private letter to my grandson that would be given to him on his 18th birthday. It contained the full story. The good, the painful, and the powerful lesson. Family is not about blood, it's about who fights for you when the world turns against you. The story of one call that fired them all became a viral sensation on YouTube and business podcasts. Thousands of parents wrote to me saying it gave them courage to stand up for their own children. 5 years had passed since the great takeover. Marcus was now a respected CEO, and little Alexander had grown into a bright, energetic 8-year-old who loved visiting the company warehouse and helping his dad. Sophia had become a strong advocate for ethical business practices. Life felt peaceful, until it didn't. A sleek new competitor called Cross Enterprises, yes, the same Damien Cross, launched an aggressive campaign. They poached top talent, spread rumors online, and even tried to buy our most important suppliers. Damien hadn't forgotten his humiliation. This time he was playing dirty, using fake reviews, regulatory complaints, and whispers in the industry that our family bought success through revenge instead of merit. Marcus felt the pressure again. One night he confessed to me, "Mom, I don't want Alexander to ever go through what I did." That was all I needed to hear. The fighter in me woke up once more. This time we didn't fight alone. Sophia used her social influence to share our real story publicly. Not the sensational version, but the raw truth about betrayal, growth, and second chances. The video she made with Marcus went viral among business families. Thousands of supporters rallied behind us. Meanwhile, I took Alexander under my wing. I began teaching him simple but powerful lessons: integrity, loyalty, and courage. One weekend I showed him the old office where his father had been fired. "This place tried to break our family," I told him gently. It made us stronger." The little boy looked up at me with serious eyes and said, "Grandma, when I grow up, I will protect our family too." My heart swelled with pride, and a few happy tears. The final blow from Damien came during a critical international deal that could take our company global. He bribed one of our senior managers to leak confidential information. We caught the traitor just in time. During the investigation, we discovered something heartbreaking. The manager was Richard Hargrove's nephew. The same person Richard had once tried to install in Marcus's place years ago. Richard himself showed up at our doorstep one rainy evening, looking older and broken. "I was wrong, Elena. I destroyed my own legacy. Please, let me make it right before it's too late." After long family discussions, we gave him a chance at redemption. Not power, never again, but a small advisory role under strict supervision. To everyone's surprise, Richard worked hard to repair the damage. He even publicly apologized in a company town hall. Watching my son and his father-in-law slowly rebuild a fragile respect was one of the most emotional moments of my life. With the internal threats handled, we faced Damien head-on. Marcus led the negotiations in Tokyo for the biggest contract in company history. I flew there with the family for support. In the final meeting, Damien tried one last dirty trick. Presenting false evidence of corruption. Marcus stood tall and calmly presented the full truth, backed by undeniable proof. The Japanese partners were impressed by our transparency and integrity. They signed with us instead. That night we celebrated as a family in a beautiful garden overlooking the city lights. Alexander ran around with a toy airplane, pretending to fly the new global routes we had just won. Sophia hugged Marcus tightly. For the first time in years, I felt completely at peace. 10 years after that fateful phone call, I sat on the porch of our family home, watching 3 generations laugh together. Marcus was now preparing to hand over parts of the company to his son when the time came. Sophia had started a foundation to help families affected by toxic workplaces. Richard had passed peacefully a year earlier, having found some redemption in his final chapter. I took out the letter I had written long ago and added a new page for Alexander. "Life will test you with betrayal, jealousy, and loss. When that happens, remember one thing: make the call. Fight for your family. Love fiercely. And never let anyone dim your light." The story of our family has inspired millions. Parents message me daily saying they found the courage to stand up for their children because of what we went through. And so, the circle continues. One phone call started it all. But it was love, courage, and unity that built a legacy that will last for generations. 15 years after that life-changing phone call, Alexander had grown into a confident 23-year-old. He had just joined the company as a junior executive, full of fresh ideas and the same fire his father once showed. But history has a way of repeating itself. A new rival group, backed by old enemies who had been quietly waiting, began targeting Alexander specifically. They spread rumors that he was only there because of family revenge, not talent. One board member even suggested demoting him to teach him humility. Marcus came to me worried. "Mom, I see myself in him. I don't want him to feel the pain I felt." I smiled and said, "Then let's show him how we protect our own." Instead of jumping in immediately, I took Alexander on a private trip back to the small town where Marcus was born. Over long walks and late-night talks, I shared the full, unfiltered story. The humiliation of the firing, the one call that changed everything, the years of rebuilding, and the hard lessons about trust and betrayal. Alexander listened with tears in his eyes. "Grandma, I thought success was just about working hard. I didn't know how much love and courage it took to get here." Back at the company, he started making bold but smart moves. Modernizing systems with new technology and winning over skeptical employees with honesty. Slowly, the tide began turning in his favor. During a major industry conference, Alexander made an unexpected ally. Victoria, the granddaughter of Victor Lang. She had taken over her grandfather's investment empire and shared our values. Together, they uncovered something shocking. The latest attacks weren't just business rivalry. Some of the old board members who had once supported Richard were still leaking information, hoping to weaken the family's control. When Marcus and Sophia learned about it, the entire family came together for an emergency meeting. For the first time, 4 generations sat at the same table, including little granddaughter Lily, Alexander's new baby sister. The unity was powerful. No one was fighting alone anymore. The climax came during the annual shareholder meeting once again. The opposition tried to force a vote to limit family influence. Alexander stood up and delivered a passionate speech that left the entire room silent. "My grandmother made one call to protect my father. My father rebuilt this company with integrity. I stand here today not because of revenge, but because of the love and lessons they passed down. This company isn't just about profit, it's about the family that refused to break." The shareholders erupted in applause. The vote failed dramatically. The remaining disloyal members were removed. Alexander was promoted to vice president, proving himself through merit and heart. In a private moment afterward, even Marcus hugged his son and whispered, "You did it better than I ever could." 25 years after that rainy evening when Marcus came home devastated, I sat on the same porch, watching my great-grandchildren play in the garden. The company was now a global leader known, not only for success but for its strong family culture and ethical standards. Marcus and Sophia were enjoying well-deserved retirement. Alexander was an outstanding CEO, raising his own family with the same values. Every year on the anniversary of the call, we gather as a family to remember. We share stories, laugh at the old dramas, and give thanks for the strength that turned pain into power. I often think back to that moment I picked up the phone and said, "Fire every one of them." It wasn't just about revenge, it was about love. The fierce, unstoppable love that protects, rebuilds, and inspires. And so the story lives on. From one mother's desperate call to a multi-generational empire built on resilience. 35 years after that fateful phone call, the world had changed. Technology had transformed business, but the core values of our family remained rock solid. Alexander was now in his late 50s, a wise and respected leader. His children, my great-grandchildren, were entering the company. Ambitious twins, Elena, named after me, and Marcus Jr. One quiet evening, Alexander received troubling news. A powerful international conglomerate was attempting a surprise hostile takeover, using sophisticated financial maneuvers and political connections. The attackers claimed our family's old-fashioned values were holding the company back. Alexander called me, now in my 90s but still sharp, and said, "Grandma, it feels like history repeating itself." I replied with a smile in my voice, "Then you know exactly what to do." Instead of panic, the family held a special gathering at our ancestral home. 4 generations sat together sharing stories around the same dining table where everything began. I shared never-before-told details about the sacrifices I made, the sleepless nights, and the quiet strength it took to make that one call. The younger ones listened in awe. Elena, my fiery great-granddaughter, stood up and said, "I want to fight this the modern way, with transparency, technology and truth." Marcus Jr. agreed, adding fresh ideas for innovation. Alexander watched with pride as his children stepped up. The next generation wasn't just inheriting the company, they were ready to protect and evolve it. The takeover attempt intensified. Fake news articles spread online. Influencers were paid to criticize the company. Even some longtime employees started doubting the family's leadership. Elena took the lead on social media, posting honest video diaries about the family's real journey. These videos went viral, turning public opinion in our favor. Meanwhile, Marcus Jr. worked with tech teams to strengthen cybersecurity and launch new AI-driven projects that impressed investors. In the middle of the crisis, a beautiful moment happened. Alexander's wife found an old box containing the very phone I had used for that original call. They brought it to me. Holding it brought tears to my eyes as I recounted the exact words. Fire, every one of them. The decisive shareholder meeting was held virtually and in person. The opposition presented charts and numbers designed to undermine us. Then young Elena stood up. With confidence and grace, she delivered a powerful presentation that combined cold facts with the warm story of our family's resilience. She ended with the line that gave everyone chills. One call started this legacy. Thousands of acts of love have kept it alive. We are not just a company, we are a family that refuses to break. The room erupted in applause. Investors who had been swayed returned to our side. The takeover failed completely. The attackers retreated, and several even reached out later to express respect for our integrity. Today, as I approach my 100th birthday, I look back on a life well lived. The company is thriving under the leadership of my great-grandchildren. New projects are making a positive impact across the world: sustainable logistics, community programs, and scholarships for children from struggling families. Every year, the entire extended family gathers. We watch the old viral videos, laugh, cry, and remember. The original phone call has become part of our family legend, a symbol of fierce love and courage. To every parent watching this, your children are worth fighting for. Whether it's one phone call, one conversation, or one stand for justice, never be afraid to protect what matters most. The story that began with pain ended with a legacy stronger than steel, and it will continue long after I'm gone, because real love never ends.